Grand UK is asking, what are your thoughts on Molecule and what it could mean for end users and the team? So Molecule is actually one of those things I'm kind of thinking about prioritizing after the performance update is done, like very early on. It's just for people who don't know, Molecule is essentially our planned sort of like version tracking, change tracking, update, distribution system. Like on a high level, it's a thing where you can create like applications and you can push new versions and then have it like track updates, resolve updates, do stuff like that. The goal for it is to be very general, so it can be used both by us and it can be used, by everyone in the community for your own content. For Resonite, the primary initial use case will be to actually have our own update, and launcher kind of system, where whenever we make a new build, it gets pushed into Molecule along, with a list of changes, and then Molecule kind of, tracks what changed over multiple builds, and have it sort of automate a lot of stuff that's, kind of manual. Like right now, for example, release notes is something, I compile manually. We do like pretty much the messages you see in the changelog, they're very similar. In most cases, they're like one-to-one to what's part of the commit messages when commits are pushed into the repository. But oh, my bubble accident. But I still have to kind of copy them, put them into release notes, and compile, make sure everything's right, and so on. What I want to do is, that whenever there's a new commit, it's also going to start a process. It builds, it makes the build, it pushes into Molecule, it becomes available to like switch to that build, which is going to help with testing, because when we're like working on multiple things, we have multiple branches, you can be, okay, I want to switch to the gasin splitting branch, make sure that works. Or maybe we're working, the invite request, like I want to switch to that branch, test things work. Or we're working on the dynamic lighting or the audio system. We can just switch between multiple branches because oftentimes there's, multiple people on the team working on things in parallel, and we only have like one pre-release branch, and updating it is, kind of takes effort and causes a lot of overhead. So it will help, with stuff like that. It's gonna make testing easier. It's gonna make, stuff easier for us as developers. It's gonna make it easier for you because we can be, okay, we're testing these multiple things. We want to please give this thing a test, make sure, your content doesn't break. That way, we can catch more things earlier than we can do right now. Because sometimes, we push something, it breaks something, then we have to, hotfix it. This will help us, make that happen less often. It still might, it'll probably happen because even in pre-release, people don't catch everything. But it's just gonna make it easier. It's gonna make it easier for us because once, for example, things are merged, instead of having to compile the changelog manually, I'll just be just the system's automatically gonna see, okay, this is the previous version, this is the new version. It collects all the changes and just builds a changelog, formats it, for different things, formats it for Steam, formats it for Discord, and so on. That's gonna, save a lot of time, save a lot of human error, with those things happening. One of the things I do want to do is say it automatically collects all the reporters, so it looks at the GitHub issue, parses that, makes a list of users who kind of contributed to that issue, just kind of automates a lot of stuff that has to be manual right now. So from high level, just what we do, it's gonna simplify a lot of our work. It's gonna reduce errors, human mistakes that happen. It's gonna make it easier to run tests for things, between, between different kind of branches. We can, run multiple tests in parallel. Even smaller changes can be easily tested. If something does break, it's gonna make it easier for you to just be roll back a build, and wait for us to kind of fix things. So we don't have to do things like crazy rash. It also make it easier, if we found a bug and we think it's a regression, we can be, okay, can you test it on this build? So you switch back to that build, test it, see if it broke, and then we have a better information on when it broke, and it can help towards, fixing regressions. So it's gonna help in that regard. in general, it's also going to make it so you can, run the Resonite without using Steam. And it's going to be huge for headless too, because you essentially be able to, just like use the utilities to automatically manage, headless for you, like, update it and so on, and you don't have to wait on Steam. Because there's another thing that happens is, we push an update to Steam, and then, some people just don't get it for a bit because it takes a while to propagate, and they keep restarting Steam and doesn't give them new version, and it just makes it like, painful. With this, it's just gonna fetch the exact version you want. It's gonna make that easier. More long term, what it's gonna do is you'll be able, to use it for your own items. Say, for example, you build an item like a gadget or avatar or something, and you want to publish updates to it. You'll be able to do that through Molecule as well. So if you make changes to the avatar, you just push new update. It's gonna help you, tracking changes. It's gonna, generate changelogs for people. It can even be smart. So like, if somebody has a version of the avatar and they wanna see, okay, what's different between my version of this avatar and this new updated one, is automatically gonna look at the difference between the versions and build a changelog specifically for that user. So it'll help, like, automate all of this stuff. If you use it also specifically, once we have, the protoflags, protoflags like nested nodes, you'll be able to use it, for the version track libraries. So say like you build a big library of, functionality for protoflags for people to use, and you release like, a version of it, and you want to release updates. You can have, Molecule resolve, whatever the version like is needed. So like, if you have a world and it's using a particle version and you release some minor fixes, you can have it configured like where it always loads the latest version of that, of that particle library of protoflags that you made. Or WebAssembly, once we have support for it as well. But it's not gonna, automatically update a major version, unless, you configure it to do that. So in some ways, from your perspective, it's also gonna serve as a, like if you're familiar with NuGet, from C# or Cargo, it's gonna serve some of that role as well. And the goal is just in general, make it very generic system, so it can be useful both for Resonite itself, Resonite is just gonna be like an application, but like a lot of the version tracking, updating, that's gonna be, it's a general functionality that a lot of things could use. And for something, like making libraries of things, with protoflags nodes and with WebAssembly, is very important, to have like some kind of like versioning system. So long term it's gonna be a very useful tool, but short term it's gonna help us a lot. It's one of those things like, like where internally like we've lost a lot of time, like probably days or even longer, dealing with some issues, with like branches and testing and some other stuff, just because we lack some of the tooling to make those things easier. So once it's kind of implemented, it's gonna, remove a lot of strain. That's gonna make it easier for us to focus, on actually building things. It's gonna reduce number of errors that happen. It's gonna make it easier to like, update Resonite, switch to different branches and versions and so on. So it's one of those things like, we really need internally. So it's probably like one of those things that's gonna be picked up like after the performance update, like probably very early-ish. One more thing I want to mention with it, we'll probably make at least parts of it like open, because I would like to make, if you have like a custom launcher, just make it open. Make it like, so you can kind of build your own versions with it, you can build upon it. There's gonna be kind of a lot of like extra like, like for community contributions, because we've done it like with some projects, like for example, go.resonite.com, that's open. And our community, has been like contributing a lot of really cool things to it, making like better for everyone. So we want to like, follow that kind of model for things. But yeah, that's I hope that's kind of good ramble on the good enough ramble on Molecule. It's definitely a system I'm personally like excited for, and like I'm just like, it's been so many cases where I'm like, I wish we had this because we need this. Oh, one more thing. We can make it so like there's also like, you know, workflows when we push a new build, it's gonna push it, you know, to Steam, but we could also introduce more like platform distributions. If there's like a script, it's like, oh, we've made a new Resonite version, and we push, you know, for example, the headless into like Linux, like repos, you know, have like a script, or maybe push builds on itch.io and publish them to other places, because now it's automated. It's gonna make it way easier to do, you know, stuff like that. There's a lot. I recommend checking the GitHub issue. It has like a lot of kind of information. Grand Linux mentioned listening. Yes, but yeah, that's pretty much like kind of covers a lot of stuff about the molecule. The GitHub issue has like a lot of information too, if you're like interested.